Good day, everyone. Welcome to Three Hagway, Year 2, Part 3. Today we're going to do the map, and BMC stands for Business Model Canvas. Lots of people put those two things together. I want to talk further about the map, the market map, what you do with it with your clients, and if you're a company listening in, what you can further do with it within your own team, and why we should keep it alive, and how does it relate to the business model canvas. Both great tools, both great visual tools. Let's get going. So why year 2? I think this is the third part of this series. I think you know why. It's all about iterate and evolve. Everything we've done thus far, we've gone at least once around, if not twice, 3 times, if you're working along at home or with your clients. And we know every time we look at it, we get better and better. And hopefully, if you're a coach listening in, that your clients have all the pictures we've created, leverage the outcomes, and we're keeping them in front of us. Not only on the walls, which I think is really important, in eyesight, but also in MGS, Metronome Growth Systems. So 3 Hagway, step by step, we're going to hone in on step 3, which is all around the map. And everything we're doing here is to absolutely continue to evolve what we're doing. So we gutted out our 3 Hag in our first year. And then we stepped through all these steps to actually evolve it, confirm it. And now we're working through other steps to ensure we're getting the outcomes we want and to drive the confidence we need. So a quick intro. Well, I've got to say congratulations to our newly certified 3 Hag coaches, but our newest certified is Paul Cronin, out of the greater Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So congrats to Paul, and congrats to all the other coaches, both certified, and lots of coaches are working through the program. So if you're a company listening in and you're looking for a 3 Hag certified coach, please reach out to us and the team, and we'd be happy to connect you with any of these finely certified coaches. You also can learn more about them at our website at metronomeunited.com or shannonsusko.com. So congrats to all. It's been super fun to support everyone on their journey of learning this with their clients. So just one thing before I keep going. We have 5 seats left in all for the 3 Hag coach certification program. We do have a huge wait list for Atlanta, which is overwhelming and amazing, and we're trying to figure out what to do about that. But we have locked down some dates for Europe. Now, the actual place is to be determined because it will be based upon the group that's coming. We've got quite a few already signed up, and we have 2 seats left if anyone's looking to get in there. It's a weekend, so Saturday and Sunday, April 27th and 28th. We're just trying to make it as accessible as possible to everybody's schedule, and as well, we really want to work with some of the coaches in Europe. So we're looking forward to that. March 20th and 21st in Sydney, Australia. We have 3 seats left. Looking forward to a great group there. And then Atlanta, Georgia, we are sold out. We've got a wait list. We'll move people on into the course, the training, if anyone happens to drop out. And then if we're left with a surplus, we will figure out what to do next in order to see if we can accommodate all the people wanting to get certified. So thanks again so much for all the support. Myself and the team are having a really fun time working with everyone, and it's been really great to see the impact people are having on their clients. So thanks again for that. Um, Most of you, if you've listened to year one, you've probably already heard this spiel 11 times. If you're listening this year, we're probably up to 13 times. I'm sure anyone listening in at this point could probably talk to this slide. I think the key points around this slide is that the 3HAG way and the 3HAG was founded in our first company, Paradata Systems. This framework, the growth system framework, and the 3HAG has been around for almost 20 years. That's terrifying when we think it's been around that long. We know that it's absolutely takes in the best of the best from a thought leader perspective. And myself and my teams had a really good time working in as many tools as possible to help us create the confidence we needed to drive the outcomes. And the metronome effect is all about a prescriptive way to actually share with everyone the framework that we put together based upon our experience. And of course, the 3HAG way is really diving in deeper and giving hopefully a better understanding of how we actually pull together the cultural, strategic, and execution system to ensure that we can have a highly achievable outcome. Okay, so key objectives of today. Well, we're definitely going to talk about strategy. It's one of my favorite things. We're definitely going to talk about the 3-year highly achievable goal. We're going to confirm and evolve it. We're going to talk more about the strategic analysis, because the map and the business model canvas is all about an external view to the marketplace and ensuring that we as coaches and we as leaders of our company are experts in the arena that we're playing in. So I cannot do any one of these webinars without actually talking about strategy, the definition of strategy, because we talked so much about it in our own organizations as we were growing up and evolving this. I found the more we talked about the definition, the more clearly we could see our own strategy. And I think it's about seeing it. I think it's about the story. And I think it's about the picture. So Michael Porter is my definition of choice. We think about it in 2 parts. One, it's strategy is a creation of a unique and valuable position. So creation of a unique and valuable position. If I think about it in the terms of the attribution map, it's getting into that white space. And in order to get there, we're going to involve a different set of activities. And the different set of activities, it's not about one about the activities. The key word is a set of activities, an interdependent set of activities. So what do we think about competition? I love Michael Porter's view. It became clearer and clearer. The more we understood this, the more we understood that definition, the clearer we could see it. So coming from a highly, I guess, trained and many hours spent playing sports, we were always competing to be the best. So when I got into the sport of business and creating and building my first company, I figured we were competing to be the best. And what we soon learned that we were actually competing to be unique. That's where that creation of a unique and valuable space comes from. And we want to ensure that the best action we can take to create a strategy is to avoid competing with rivals on the same dimension. Avoid competing with rivals on the same dimension. Now that goes against pretty much every human, trait we have, is moving to another dimension so we don't have to compete with anyone. But it's probably the safest, it's definitely the most unique, and what we're driving for is valuable. So the strategic analysis is something that in the early days, I think in business school, we learned that we should do this analysis, but I missed actually that we should do it ongoing, that we should do it regularly. And I think as the world sped up from 1995 onwards, it became even more and more important to keep this regular system of strategic evaluation and analysis going. And we know that we had a continuous system of execution, and we really need to make sure that we keep up our external analysis, our internal analysis, and evaluate what's going on, the whole pictures that we have, then confirm our strategy, and then ensure that our execution is aligned to it. This comes from Michael Porter's work as well. And then when we think about this and we think about the systems to grow a company, there's absolutely a cultural system. And we loved, absolutely powering it off of Jim Collins' tools, our big, hairy, audacious goal, the hedgehog, and then, of course, ensuring that we can keep it strong, known, and alive. And that's through a lot of things. And one of the best things we know is through our communication rhythm, through the huddles. The cohesive system, it's all about a high-performing team. We base this off of overcoming the 5 dysfunctions from Patrick Lencioni. And there's lots and lots of tools, and some of Jim Collins' work flows over into this area. But we know at the end of the day, we must have an absolutely cohesive team, leadership team, and rest of the team in order to achieve the team results we're striving for. The human system is powered by top grading. I had the great pleasure, again, to spend a little bit of time last Friday with Brad Smart. We hadn't connected in a few years since the Metronome effect came out. And he was attending a 3 Way workshop. It was super fun to give him, the full story of how this all fits in to the growth system. And I got a nice note from him on Friday afternoon, and we're going to look forward to doing a little bit more in this area, because we know the human system is all about attracting, coaching, keeping, it's attracting, onboarding, coaching, keeping, rewarding, right? Coaching, keeping, rewarding A players. And I'm currently reading a book. I'm going to butcher the name of it. And the book is a title we would know. It's not about the how. It's not about the what. It's about the who. And we know this, but this book really hones in on ensuring that the who we surround ourselves with are absolutely the best of the best. And what that means is A players that are aligned with core values, and we ensure this, and A players that can, exceed expectations for performance. And then we know at the very top of the house, we've got the leaders sandwiching this all together. We've got the house, the outside of the house is everything to do with people and our 3 people systems. And then, of course, at the very top of the house, we have our team. The team absolutely holds a reputation of our organization. If you are a company listening in, it's all about the team. They hold the reputation of your company in the marketplace. And as coaches, we have to realize this is quite a flow of information that we need to actually support our clients in getting this rhythm going. Inside the house, we have our strategic system powered by 3 Way, and a lot of other great thought leaders. And then we have the execution system powered by scaling up, and that great rhythm we learned from Vern Harnish, Rockefeller Habits, and of course, the one-page plan, hauling it all together. In the very middle of this, that little gap between strategy and execution, we know that's where the 3 got born and lives. And we know it's absolutely tied to the cash system. Learning to forecast cash first was so obvious, but it was one of the last things that really, landed with us when we were learning this. Forecast cash first, then work our way out from there. And it's hard to forecast cash first. We actually can do that, by gutting it out, but then we have to work our way back to validate it. We know this is a framework. This is a framework that as coaches, we want to ensure our clients adopt and use for the best outcomes they possibly can have to impact, their lives, their team's lives, their community lives. And we know the growth system, right, are these 6 systems: culture, cohesive, human, strategy, execution, and cash. 6 systems making up one growth system. So why do we do all this? Well, it's supposed to make growing a company, and it should make growing a company easier, more fun, and reaching the highly achievable goals that you've set out to. But at the end of the day, it's all about predicting the future. We know if we don't write down where we want to go, we're never going to get there. So in order to do that, we need to predict the future. We need to get better at predicting the future. The one-page growth plan that we adopted as we learned it from Vern Harnish's Rockefeller Habits, we actually know how important the 3 column is. It's that stepping stone that lines up our 1 our 1 year highly achievable goal and plan to our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal. And we know in order to do that, we need a forecast. We need to forecast cash first, then profit, expenses, widgets. What are the things that are flowing through your company? What are those things, and can we forecast them month over month of 36 months? It makes it real. It helps us find the gaps. And then as we work through it, we can make sure it stays aligned over and over and over again. So 3HAG definition, you probably know it off by heart by now. Strategic execution system. Strategic execution system, it drives confidence in predicting the future. So we're going to get better at predicting the future. And it's the future growth of our company, and then we're going to make it happen. We know that a lot of companies out there, really, most of them have, our 12-month plan and maybe a 90-day plan, maybe a 90-day individual, and maybe they're all the way into a 30-day individual. And most companies have core values and core purpose. I've been out speaking with a lot of different companies around North America and actually in many different parts of the world. And so many companies out there don't have a big, hairy, audacious goal. As coaches, we've got to ensure we get one in place, gut it out, and then, validate. And then, of course, we want to move from that 5-year super wild ass guess to a 3-year highly achievable goal. It's the stepping stone. We know it. We see it. We see it in professional sports. We see it in our amateur sports. And we've got to have one in business. Why? Because it's going to simplify everything we do. It's going to make it fun. We're going to be able to see the picture of where we're going. We're going to get aligned to it. We're going to get focused on it. We're going to have the clarity to make great decisions. And of course, we're going to have the confidence to keep evolving it and moving forward as we go. So here's our step-by-step. Today, we're honing in on the map and the business model canvas. And I'm going to step into the map. You've seen some of this before. And then I want to talk a little bit more about the business model canvas. And then that's going to tie into what we're going to do in part 4. So I'll leave you hanging on the suspense of what we're going to do in part 4. But I really want to get into the map right now. So the map is a tool we used many, many sessions ago. Hopefully you have one and you have it up on your wall. We want to continuously iterate and evolve it. And then I want to talk a little bit about the business model canvas in case you are not sure why you should use it, in case you're not sure if you've ever used it before. I want to give an intro to that and then really contrast the map to the business model canvas. Some people think it's the exact same thing. In some cases it is. We'll get similar outcomes, but it's definitely a different view. And I always, as soon as the business model canvas came out, I loved it because, again, it was a picture. It was on one piece of paper. And I really like pictures on one pieces of paper. So let's jump into the map because that's another picture and one piece of paper. So we know if we're building a map, it's all about putting your client's company, or if you're listening as a company, your company, in the middle of the page, very blank. We're going to actually add in our customers. We might have some channels, some OEM, distributors, resellers, referral. We're going to put in any suppliers where we're spending money, partners. We're going to have our competitors shown on here and any associations we might be involved with. Now, one of the things around this is we really just want to map out who is playing in our arena. And we're trying to get a view on this. I know it's one of my favorite things to do with clients. I love doing it as a company because it just gives us a different view than what we had or what we have little pieces of. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. On the left-hand side of the map is really about where money is flowing into the company. And on the right-hand side of this map is really where money's flowing to. Now, one of the things I want to evolve today in our thinking is what are the other overlays we can do to the map? What are the other things we can look for, show? There are so many things. It's such a strategic tool, but it gives us also a very clear view of the marketplace. So we've seen this before. If we're going to build up the map, right? I'm going to use a Paradata example. And we put Paradata right in the middle on a Post-it note. On the far left-hand side, in this particular example, we've gone up a level with customers. It says Canadian, small, medium-sized enterprise, US small, medium-sized enterprise. We have a bank that has SMEs, a whole bunch of them. We had reseller SMEs, and these are basically small and medium-sized enterprises that we actually served through the banks and the resellers. And then there was large merchants and extra large merchants. The next group you see in pink, these are channels in the marketplace. There's Canadian banks, US resellers. Then from there, we identified our suppliers. We had Canadian processors, we had data center locations and operations, marketing firms, developer contractors, office leases, insurance, legal. We were just looking at where do we spend money externally, who are they? And as we evolve the map, if you've got a map like this up on the wall, what I really recommend is we start filling in specific names. Now, if I look to the left of this and we have all kinds of customers, there's no way we can get every customer name up there. So grouping them's fine. Right? On the reseller side, we might be able to get more of the reseller names onto the map. I highly encourage that. And then if we look to the very far left where we have the suppliers, let's get the exact names. And why we want the names is because, for instance, if I put on a Canadian processor from this example, Royal Bank of Canada over here, then if we look over to the Canadian bank as a reseller, well, Royal Bank of Canada was definitely a processor. They were definitely over here on the right-hand side, but they were actually a reseller of ours as well. And so we actually put them in two places in our map. It helps make it very clear on how important they are to the relationship of the organization and the success of the organization. So I hope if you're out there and you're using this, you are absolutely putting the names in this area and around the resellers, around the suppliers, and that we get more specific. Okay, sorry about that little phone call that jumped in there. From there, if we add in the associations, we now see the names are in there. Those are the exact names of the different associations the Paradata had in their arena. And then we see very specific names of our competitors. Now, having done this a long time, both with my own companies and with others, the faster we can get to real names onto the map, the better, I think, and the easier it is to keep alive. Because the idea behind this is as we work through this and we keep this map up on the wall, we want to be either putting more names up there as we work through this, and we want to be able to see when, for instance, let's use the Royal Bank as an example, and this is just a made-up example, but if they are a processor of ours, a Canadian processor, if they are a reseller of ours, and then Royal Bank of Canada goes and buys one of our competitors, let's say EZAC Beanstream, that's going to have quite an effect on our business. And so we want to be really specific. So if you're looking at your map today, if you're a coach working with clients and you've done this much work on the map, I highly recommend you go back in and get more specific with names anywhere there are not. And now the only area I'm going to say, depending on how many customers you have over there on the left, is you can keep it into the groupings that you have there. Otherwise, it makes it really, really messy. But there will be, as we work through some of the different layers we can put in place, you can see how we can break this down a bit to get better views. Okay, so then we're going to actually start linking up the relationships. You've seen this before. Okay, so the left-hand side is everywhere money's coming in, and the right-hand side is everywhere money's going out. And then the red there, we're linking up our competitors and where they are bumping into some of the same relationships we have, both as resellers as well as suppliers. The other thing that we popped up in this example, I like to do this early on, are the percent of revenue dollars flowing into the organization and where it's coming from, as well where our dollars flowing out to. In some cases, and this is one of those cases, we had suppliers where we weren't paying any dollars for that relationship. Very, very telling when we actually drew this. We made our money through processing payment transactions, though those orange stickies represent we didn't pay the processors. We had zero contractual relationships at the time we drew this. It put our business at high risk, and we had to work really hard and figure out how could we make this less risky and better for the growth of our business. So the map can show us many things. Now, there's different types of overlays we can do with the map. What we have done up until this point, when you see this map, and this was the first time around, you can see we get a good view of the marketplace. As a coach doing this, early on with your client, even before why it's step 3, before you get to core customer, because normally where we see the dollars flowing, we can identify the core customer. And there's many times where I've worked with a client early on where I was absolutely told the core customer was, say that, Canadian, maybe bank, small to medium-sized enterprise, that's who our customer is. And then when we draw this out, we recognize that actually they're the customer of the bank, and the bank is our customer because they're the ones that we've actually contracted with, wholesaled into, and they become our core customer. So I've been schooled a few times moving to core customer with clients, where we're actually, trying to get things done. And when we skip this step, we sometimes have to go back after we describe the core customer to get a clear picture. So I highly recommend that if you're working with a new client, or even if you're working with an existing client and you've been working with them a while, you're bringing in the 3-HAG way, get the map done before you go get some more clarity on the core customer, because we can easily see it when we draw it out in this simple form. Okay, what are some of the overlays? Some of the overlays that exist, we have strategic. I'm going to show you what that means. It's really nothing really fancy, but for us as Paradata, as well as Subservio, it was a really great thing for us to do to identify who could be our strategic buyer, who could be that, and, starting to identify them, because we know a strategic buyer for any of our clients and any of the companies listening in is a 2 to 3 year, dating and courting event. The more they know you, the better, and we want to identify them early. We also can do maps by geographic regions. I have clients that have global businesses. Paradata, Subservio didn't get there, but Paradata was absolutely a global business, and we created maps country by country. We had the overview one, and then we went country by country. And then we also can map in an overlay that shows the future of maybe where we're going and where we want to go with some of the players in the arena. Okay, so let's step through these one by one. These are nothing fancy by any means. When I say overlays, I think of GIS data. And I think of Google Maps when you can actually select an overlay, meaning you can select show me all the gas stations nearby, or select show me all the hotels and restaurants. Right? This is what I think of with overlays. It's the foundational map with adding in more information. And we can create different maps if we want. Depending on who the audience is, we might want to see it or not see it. So this is a strategic overlay. As I said, it's nothing fancy. You can see there on the resellers, we have highlighted in, I tried to show you the example of where we can put in the specific names of the resellers. So I put PayPros in, I put Heartland Bank in there. Over here on the supply side, I put in Global and Nova. And what we did is, as crude as this probably is, but this is reality in a high growth company. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. We would just literally star who we thought could be, in this case, the strategic buyers. So Heartland Bank could be a strategic buyer. PayPros could be a strategic buyer. Authorized.net, one of our competitors, could be a strategic buyer. CyberSource could be a strategic buyer. Global Payments could be a strategic buyer. And Nova Payments could be a strategic buyer. Now, when you look at this and you start in, each one of these strategics are coming from 3 different areas of the map. This is super important. And quite frankly, the ones over on the far right in the blue, Global Payments and Nova, over time, they can end up over here in the pink. And so they become sort of your double whammy strategic buyer. And so what's the big deal about, starting something on there and putting it up on the wall and whatnot? Well, the big deal for us and what we learned is that as this evolved and as we kept this up on our wall year over year, we evolved it, the view of it, things were moving around. Global Payments, who we thought might be a strategic buyer, started buying up some of our competitors. Nova was moving around. Heartland Bank was moving around. We're doing this to, number one, remind us who we wanted to get to know better to date. We wanted to keep it in front of us. And we wanted to actually, as newcomers came onto the scene, we actually would, assess whether they could be a buyer, or were they going to love us, or were we going to piss them off? Who might they be? Now, interestingly enough, PayPros actually bought Paradata Systems. They weren't on our original map. We actually didn't know who they were back in the day until we partnered with them. They ended up as a reseller, and then we got to know them better and better and better. Authorized.net, we could have actually a line over the years went by between Paradata and Authorized.net, because we did a deal together where all the business that was hitting Authorized.net from Canada, and they didn't serve Canadian merchants, was just hitting their floor. We got to know them well enough that they would actually refer all that business to us, Paradata, and we'd kick them back a 20% referral fee. And as we did that and put those relationships in place, we got to know Authorized.net better and better. And they were one of the parties that put in a term sheet to buy Paradata back in the day. So nothing fancy, but enough to actually keep our eyes on the prize. If this is where you're going, ensure that we make sure we're spending time with these strategics, and that as new and as things move around the marketplace, someone who you might thought was a strategic, as they take some action, may become very unstrategic and very much competitive, more so than we thought as things move on. Okay, so not a huge fanfare, but just an easy way to show an overlay. Now, I'm just going to show this one here. Overlay is the future, and we're identifying it by the dotted yellow lines. And what we did here is we did Humboldt Bank. You can see now Global Payments coming up there. And one of the things in our future was making relationships with Humboldt Bank and Global Payments. And so we would just draw it in, dotted line in the beginning to show this is where we're going to go. This is where we're going to evolve to. Super, super easy. Again, nothing fancy. But again, it's up on the wall. It's in front of us. And so we now have a regular view of dollars flowing. We have a strategic overlay on here. And now we have a future overlay just by simply putting dotted lines in to where we want to move to next. And interestingly enough, over the years, well after I left Paradata Systems, it was just a couple of years ago, Global Payments ended up buying PayPros. So, I mean, we never know what's going to happen over time, but what we want to do, we want to help our clients. And we as coaches want to be able to see what's happening in the marketplace when we come in and work with our clients on a quarterly basis. As companies listening in, we've got to have one view, a really good view, and a live view of the marketplace for our leadership team. One of the barriers to growth is market expertise. This is one of the ways we all get on the same page, literally, about what's happening in the marketplace. and have that discussion, month over month, quarter over quarter, if not week over week, if it's up in your war room where you're having your weeklies. Okay, so again, nothing fancy. Geographic regions. Now, in this particular view, we're only showing US and Canada. We, over time, started breaking down these views country by country, because we were in Canada, we were in the US, we were in Europe, in all the different countries, and every country we went into had a different payment value chain. So it was very important that we mapped it out. We would have one overarching map, and then we'd have a breakdown of a map per geographic region. I just recently did that with one of my clients. We had a big map and we went country by country. It was probably one of the best things that we re-upped. We did it a couple of years ago when I started working with them, but we really needed to just start fresh, renew, lots of new entrants in the marketplace, and really get this back into focus. So it's easy to get out of focus on this. It's easy to lose the discipline of staying focused on this. But when I go in and work with clients, I either have a picture of this already to, that we can look at, mark up, or it's on the wall in the meeting room. If it's not there, we won't talk about it. If it's not there, we won't evolve it. So I can't stress enough that we've got to get the pictures up, and we've got to actually keep this market map alive. Okay? So very simply, keep it alive. All these overlays, nothing fancy, but again, gives us more perspective, more ways to look at the market, to drive better discussions so we can make better, faster decisions together as a leadership team. Okay, so that's my rant on the market map, but I really, I think you can hear it in my voice. It's such a simple tool, but it's such a great tool for the discussions we need. So I pulled some slides off of Alex Osterwilder's site. They're there. His site is so great. There's so many tools and ways that if you're a company listening in, there's lots of great tools on their site. As well, if you're a coach, if you haven't been there, you should take a look. Really, really good, great examples. I'm going to show a couple examples here, but this all is attributed back to Alexander and his team and the work behind this. So why put the business model canvas in with the market map? Because some people get confused that it's the same thing. It's close, but this is all about business model. We can definitely see and map out business model in the market map. There's no doubt about it. There's so much strategy in that market map. You can tell the whole story there. But why we love the business model canvas, because it allowed us another view, and it challenged us to answer it in a different way and to get the value proposition, up front and center, and that takes a bit of work. And it was just got us to think differently about getting to the same outcome of where we thought we should be going, and it helped us build confidence. So I hope you can hear that. The business model, and I just sort of pulled a few things from his work. The great news is that we've got technology, we've got strategy, and we've got organization. And, the most effective business models sit right in the middle of all of this. And I think we learned this clearly, maybe the hard way in our first organization, but definitely in our second organization. I can tell you it was the business model, purely the business model, that put us in that unique and valuable position to actually create the value that we received on selling that company 3 years, 3 months later. The technology was amazing. There's no doubt. We did have a solid strategy, and we had a good organization and the way to grow it. But the business model itself gave us the legs to actually grow the company quickly and show quarter over quarter our success. And when I think about it, and I'm going to give you a bit more information, so I want you to think a little bit more about this. Your clients, if you're a company listening in, we've got to get real serious about our business model. The market map gives us a view of the landscape of the arena we're playing in, allows us to analyze the external environment, to actually get a better view of our strategy. The business model canvas actually helps us pull three things together. And one of the things that I really liked about this view is, out of this work, is that when we looked at product and service, if we were looking at operating margin growth in excess of competitive peers, and we're just innovating, product, service, marketplace innovation, you get a little up. If you then look at, I have to just move this out of the way if I can. I'm just having a, let me just see if I can move this. Here we go. Then if you have like operations innovators, they actually were, losing growth, if you want to put it that way. And then if you look at the business model innovators, look at the compound annual growth rate over 5 years. This is why the business model, if we're not honing in on this, we should be as coaches and as leaders. It can change everything. The technology we picked up and adopted and bought in my second company, that technology had been around for quite a few years, $40 million invested in it, and it got orphaned. And we went back, and they were in the marketplace, and they were not successful. And all we did is we took the same technology, we put it back into the marketplace. We got very clear on who our core customer would be and our positioning, but it was the business model that changed everything and drove our value. And this is, I love this view because, it's all about the business model at the end of the day. And then if we think of, business model, I like this, benefits cited by business model innovators. This is sort of what we're looking for. And out of the business model canvas, it helps us get a nice map so that we can have a good view on, is our business model really helping us, i.e. creating value, or is it hurting us, like I just showed in some of those others? So when we think about business model, it's really about describing the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. I don't know if enough people think about that definition. And then, so if we think about it in other words, I was just trying to break it down, going, a business model should describe all the parts of a company necessary to make money. If we think of the key process flow map that, we draw in step 2 of this, and it's really about that whole flow is about making money. And the part of that flow and that analysis of looking at that is, how does the money flow in there? How could we evolve the model? Could we get all the money up front, get cash up front, so we're not taking all the risk on the back end? In Paradata systems, we took a lot of risk on the back end. We had a monthly subscription model that we weren't getting upfront payments. In Subservio, we absolutely turned that around and asked for our customers from month 1 to buy 1 year and 2 years in advance and pay us all that money up front. It's one of the reasons why we had the growth capital needed to grow the company. It's one of the reasons why our value took off. So I tell you all that because when we think about the business model canvas, they broke it down into 9 building blocks. 9 building blocks. Hang on one second, just need to click here. Customer segments. So if we think about the market map, we identified some customer segments. And so there are some, definitely direct lines between the two. We don't necessarily put the value proposition directly onto our market map, but we will put it into the business model canvas. And then we have our channels. We talked about that. And we have our customer relationships. Okay, so, all but the value prop would have been on our market map. So that just helps us confirm a few things when we're actually starting to map this out. Now, one of the things we learned early on when we started using the business model canvas is if we don't have a great value proposition defined, right, one defined for our organization, it's really hard to actually do the business model canvas. And it's one of the reasons why Alex Osterwalder and his team actually the next book they came out with was Value Proposition Design, because a lot of us actually went to find other tools in order to actually get really clear on the value proposition and fill that box in first before we went around to the rest of the business model canvas. So if you have experience using this, you probably already know that the value proposition is at the core of this. And then it gets easier to build the business model around it, but we've got to be quite clear about that. If we look at the other building blocks, we've got revenue streams, which we can see in the market map, but this is actually shown in a different way. We've got key resources, right? We've got key activities, we have key partnerships, and we have cost structure. So those are the 9 building blocks. And the great news is that, of course, it got put onto one view, one piece of paper, and it all fits together quite nicely. And so if we look at this on the left, we've got key activities, key partners, key resources, cost structure. That's on one side, left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we have customer relationships, customer segments, value proposition right in the middle. It's right in the middle. That's the nice little present, valuable present that's there. And then, of course, we've got channels and we've got revenue streams. Okay? So from there, these are our building blocks, but we really need to get clear on the value proposition. And so one of the things we did, and we didn't talk about this in year 1 of this program, the value proposition and the positioning statement. One of the first things we did as an organization, we always would work positioning statement and the value prop, but because we had that clear, it made it quite easy to actually fill out the business model canvas when it came out. Now, I remember going to work with one of my first clients, and I don't know if I was that clear about it, and I remember actually using the business model canvas in this process to create a little bit more clarity. And I remember we filled it out, and it didn't feel that good, and I went back and looked at what we did in our organization. We absolutely had clarity around the value proposition. So when we think about this middle box value proposition, as coaches and leaders, we've got to have clarity on that. It's actually why Alex and his team came out with the value proposition design. I actually have that book in my office. I've used that mapping as well. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next webinar, because I really think in order to do a great job on the business model canvas overlay, you've got to have that. And then all the other pieces in this, we actually have them outlined in the market map. What I like about some of the things that we get to do here is we get to sort of line them up a little tighter, right, and give us a different way to look at it. And quite frankly, a lot of people say your market map goes left to right and the business model canvas goes right to left. It's absolutely true. They go the opposite way than what we went. But, we just drew that out of pure, common sense, trying to understand a market. And I'm not sure why they drew it right to left. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. The key is that we understand the different, pieces of the business model canvas. So if we look at this is downloadable off the business model canvas site. I've used it with clients with small post-it notes, creating it. They also have a great tool on their site where you can actually go in. They'll allow you to electronically create it. They're little electronic post-it notes. It's super good. I've used it for my companies. I've used it for client companies. And I have an example coming up that will give you a view of that. So if we put a line right down the middle of the canvas, one side of the canvas on the left is all about efficiency, and the right side is all about value. And that's why the value proposition is living right in the middle. That's why the cost structure is on the left at the bottom, and value, we've got revenue on the right. So if we I grabbed an Apple iPod, iTunes business model. It's a good one. This is an example from their site. And basically, I'm just going to build it up to give you an idea. But the key is it starts with the value proposition. So a seamless music experience was the idea between the Apple, iPod, and iTunes. I don't know about you, but back in the day, I resisted for quite some time giving in to the iPod iTunes. When the iPhone came out, I was all in. But they were going for client segments, mass market. You can see that we had Apple stores, apple.com, iTunes stores, retail stores, right? If we look in there, client relationships is really about the switching costs, right? A lot of us, I can't remember, I didn't go for this. I went for another MP3 type marketplace, and that's where I went for a while. I didn't want to get tied into the Apple iPod iTunes. I wanted to keep it a little cleaner, but there became a switching cost. When I switched, it was about the functionality of the iPhone. Then we have over on the far right, who are the key partners: record companies, OEMs, content and agreements for key resources, iPod hardware, iTunes software, the Apple brand, people. Key activities was around the hardware design and the marketing. We know how great Apple is at that. And then, of course, as we work through the bottom, what's the cost structure was people and manufacturing, marketing, and sales. And then on the, hang on one second, I have to click here. Then on the revenue side, there was some music revenues, large hardware revenues. Okay, so, not rocket science. The thing that I like about this, it again takes the discussion we're going to have with our clients, of your company, with your team, a little bit more, getting a bit more specific around these areas. Again, how this differs from the market map is that we're actually getting a little bit more granular into these pieces, where in our market map, we are very high level, just connecting the dots and flowing the dollars. Okay, so this gives us a bit more discussion. Now, we'll talk more about this, but I just wanted to give this example because most people know this example, and I wanted you to have a look at it in case you haven't used it. The key to this, though, is ensuring that we get the value proposition correct. So if we think about that, the value proposition must be correct first. Let's assume we just got it correct. Then how do we test the business model? How do we test what we wrote down? Right? Because in this, it's like we might be gutting it out. They're going to call it guessing. So if we guess the value prop, hopefully we're not going to guess too much, but there will be a little bit of a guess involved. There always is. It makes people very uncomfortable. What I hope to talk about is how we can take the guess out of this going forward, because it is so critical to your business model. But we're going to guess all the way through this the first time we actually go through it. And then over time, if we can get clarity on our value prop, the positioning statement and the value proposition, it actually can help take some of the guessing out of this and create some fact, right? And we want to work through it, validate, 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 right? Why a lot of companies stick to a business model that is tried, trusted, and true is because there is a lot of risk in changing their business in your business model. There absolutely is. So if you're an existing company out there and you're a coach working with a company, we got to make sure that we have a view of this. We got to make sure we have the market map in view, so all the players, and then what are all the things that we're going to take us forward. So the business model canvas for us was just another way to help us validate. When I look back to strategy, technology, and organization, and the business model sits right in the middle. Well, right in the middle of that is our positioning statement, unique and valuable positioning statement that's tightly aligned to our value proposition. So I don't know about you, but what we used back in the day came from Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm, just that positioning statement template that they had, great questions you ask, and then it was directly tied to the value proposition. So that's one of the tools we used. We used it when we created our first business model canvas, as well as now we have this other tool that we use, of course, that Osterwalder and his team created. So it's great that we have more than one tool to create the positioning statement and the value prop, because it is key to your business model. You can see how key the business model is to the overall value of your company. That's why I started out this area with seeing that. So if that doesn't make you want to be more curious about the positioning statement and the value prop, I don't know what will. It does create immense value. We lived it in Subservia. We were so fortunate for that. But it really came out of our view of the market map. The more we kept that alive, the more we kept it in front of us. And then we used other thought leaders' tools. In this case, it was Alex Osterwalder's business model canvas to actually create some more confidence, especially at that time with Subservia, to go forward. As large companies, mature companies evolve into new spaces, these are great tools that we can use. So hopefully that gives you a bit of view of the differences between the two. One is a viewing of the arena, and one is a map of our business model founded upon the positioning statement and the value proposition. So what's next? Well, we have to keep rolling it forward. So if you're at a stage where you're working with clients and we need to keep the market map alive, you've got some good ideas how to do that through the geographic, through the strategic, as well as just looking at it from any particular view you need, whether it's a future view as well, you add it in. The whole idea of iterate, and roll it forward is getting more and more confidence. So we've already stepped through all this. We're going to step through it again. As we do so, we're going to evolve the tools we have, and we're going to add in some new thought leader tools. Maybe you've used them before, but they might not have been tied in tightly to the 3HAG way. So let's wrap it up. We know how important the 3HAG is to ensuring that we have the alignment we need. We know it takes 1% of a team's time to create the plan, to write it down, to get there. And it takes 99% of a team time to get aligned to it, to get the confidence and to make great decisions towards where we want to go. This is a framework that we can ensure our clients get really good at. It actually allows us to involve so many thought leaders tools out there, and there's more to come. We know there's lots of great stuff going on out there. I think that's what keeps me so energized about this. I keep learning more and more tools of thought leaders and views of thought leaders that can actually confirm and create confidence in the outcomes that my clients are looking for. The growth system's all about the 6 systems that we're looking to do to make it easier for our clients, easier for companies to grow their organization. We got to get better at predicting the future. We want to keep our 36-month widget-based forecast aligned to our one-page growth plan. So to close it out, the recording will be available as always. We'll get the PowerPoint slides PDF'd and out. And there's really, the tools that are available for download. We can go to the Business Model Canvas site for that as well. The market map, there's nothing fancy about that. Blank piece of paper and off you go. So the next webinar is April 2nd, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we're going to actually dive into the positioning statement and the value proposition statement. It became really obvious to me when we were working through this that, we talked about the market map. Lots of people are asking about the business model canvas, but I really think we need to take a step back at this point in our journey and hone in on the positioning statement and the value proposition statement. I think the more and more I've worked with these statements since probably the early days using it for my own company, as coaches, we can see how tightly it aligns to the 3HAG way and the steps that we're working through with our clients. So hopefully you'll join me next month. I've been having a ball doing this. I got to thank everybody for the amazing, amazing support, both through workshops we're doing all over North America, Costa Rica a couple of weeks ago, Australia into later in the year, going over to Europe. It's just been amazing. So Other resources available. We're getting, obviously, all of these recordings and whatnot up. Workshops are happening all over the place. We're trying to keep our site updated as they come on. We've got, actually, that should say 7 coaches certified. We have, in total, 55 coaches that have gone through training. And we've got just a few more to go to reach our number of 60. That's amazing. Certainly amazing to me. It wasn't in my 3HAG a year ago. Here's some of the places we're going to be. And I apologize, Paul Cronin. We're going to be together in April. I'm actually going to pull that date out of my head right now, 27, 26, 25th, Wednesday in Minneapolis with Paul Cronin. April 10th, we're in Vancouver at the Tech Exit Conference. I'm happen to be sitting on a panel at the end of the day there talking about exits. We've given all the attendees 3HAG Way books. Dublin, Ireland is getting moved. I left that in there to make sure I remember to let people know. Dublin, Ireland workshops with Paulo Kelly. We're going to move later in the year just to do with some scheduling conflicts we had. Ethan Martin, we're May 14th in Denver. We're back in Vancouver the next day with Ace Tech. And there's a lot more that have been planned that I need to get out to everybody. But as well, please check our website. I think it's well up to date. The Coach Cert program you've already seen. If you're interested, if you're on the wait list for Atlanta, maybe you want to consider some of the other dates that are there in Europe or in Sydney. I know depending on where you live, it might be a hike, but I think it'll be well worth it. The Costa Rica cert class was a whole lot of fun. We had some Latin American coaches, and we had some U.S. coaches, Canadian coaches come down and do the training. We had certainly a lot of fun. So that's it for today. Again, I'm blown away by all the support of 3HAG Way. We're certainly having fun here. Myself, my team, the Metronome Growth Systems team. If you haven't checked it out, it certainly has some great features that support the 3HAG, from the war room to the swim lanes to the alignment of our 3HAG to our 1HAG to our 90-day. So if you haven't had a look, get in there. If you're a coach and you want more information, it certainly makes me adding value to my clients a lot easier. And we, of course, use it in our own businesses. So thanks very much. Have a good day, and I look forward to the next time we connect.